Okay, so we'll be doing this for just an hour to respect everybody's time. Okay, so yeah, let's start. So hello everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to join this 1 hour Zoom event. Tonight we're gonna be talking about how to study for the October 2024 na PLE. So this is more relevant for those taking the October na 2024 na PLE. But for those who are in the Zoom meeting, it can also, everything that I'm going to talk about tonight would also apply for those who will be taking the PLE next year or in the next few years. Okay. So yeah, so let's start. So there are 3 topics that will be okay, wait lang. Can anyone sorry, I failed to ask all of you. Naririnig niyo ba ako?
Yes, Doc.
Okay, right, that's good. Thank you. And how about yung share screen na PDF? Nakikita niyo ba?
Opo din, Doc.
Okay, nice. All right. Just making sure. All right, so we're gonna be talking about 3 topics. So the first is how to create your own study schedule. The second is what effective study techniques work for the PLE. And the third one would be what topics came out last April 2024 in a PLE. So these are the questions that I'll be answering tonight kasi these are the questions that were frequently asked in the Google form that I sent out a couple of days ago. And I believe these are also the questions that have to be addressed, that you also have to know the answer to if you're going to take the PLE this coming October. Okay. So just a quick disclaimer. Na there will be a lot of times na I will be mentioning yung top notch. But ang quick disclaimer ko is the reason I would be mentioning top notch a lot is for 3 reasons. The first is I used top notch kasi for my review last September 2017, and also I'm a lecturer at top notch. And number 3 is I believe in their study materials because they've been doing it for 1 to 2 decades already. So they already have a pretty good track record. But if you are enrolled in a different review center like CDB, Expert MD, or Focus MD, that's fine. But again, minimension ko lang lagi yung mame-mention ko lang yung top notch kasi dun lang ako familiar na system. Okay. But again, if you're enrolled in other review centers, okay lang yun. Okay. Okay, so how to create your own study schedule. So it starts with, so when you're creating your own study schedule, it's, I would advise you to separate it into 2 phases. The first is the pre-review season, which starts today until August 1st or July 1st.
Ano yung regarding yung tinutukan ng anak niya, tiniis na sakit nun.
Wait lang. I just have to mute yung naka...
Palay siya.
Okay na. Okay, sige. So for everyone na nandito sa Zoom meeting, so just kindly mute your audio. Okay, right. So so when you're creating your own study schedule, you have to separate it into 2 phases, as I said. The first is the pre-review season, and it starts today until August 1st or July 31st. And from today until August 1st, you only have 38 days. And then your review season officially starts on August 1st. I'm not sure kung paano kung may review season din ba yung ibang review centers, like for example, Expert MD, Focus MD, and what else? Yung CDB. I believe yung Expert MD nagsistart sila way, way earlier. But yung Top Notch, I think, is nagsistart sila officially is August 1st, which is why I put their review season officially starts at August 1st kasi August 1st nagsistart si Top Notch. Anyway, so yun. So after separating it into two phases, yung pre-review season and review season, let's talk about yung pre-review season. So when you say pre-review season, it involves you creating your own study schedule na personal. So I say personal because each one of you has a different set of circumstances. Okay. Like you're all doing your internships in different hospitals, which have slightly different workloads and different na duty schedules. And also, each one of you is rotating in a different department, which means that the number of hours that you're able to use for studying also varies greatly. So may mga naka-rotate sa inyo sa surgery na more than 12 hours yung like for example on duty ka, more than 12 hours yung nilalog mong duty hours, more than 12. Samantalang pag ikaw naman yung nasa elective na rotations, maybe strictly 12 hours yung ilalog mo lang. So you'll have more time for studying. Okay? So it really depends kung saan ka nagro-rotate ngayon. So which is why I said personal. Kasi you have to do it, you have to create your study schedule depending on your own situation right now. Okay. And then when it comes to review season, when August 1st comes around, I would suggest na i-follow nyo lang yung study schedule ng Top Notch if you're enrolled in Top Notch, or kung may study schedule na pinuput out o binibigay sa inyo yung review center na you're currently enrolled in. Like for example, if you're enrolled in CDB or Expert MD or Focus MD, if they will be providing you with a study schedule that you can follow for the review season, that's good. But if those review centers don't give you your study schedule, then you might have to just create your own study schedule again. Okay. So for those who will be enrolled in Top Notch, I would suggest now when August 1st comes around is you will just follow yung schedule on Top Notch. For two reasons again. First is it helps kasi to have a pre-made study schedule na other students are also using or also following, because that helps you feel like you have other people who are going through what you're going through. So for example, sabihin ng Top Notch for the next 5 days is you will be studying biochemistry. So parang it helps na may iba kang kasama na nag-aaral din ng biochemistry. So that's that somehow helps you cope with the stress ng studying for the PLE. And it also creates a sort of time constraint. Okay? Like for example, sinabi ng Top Notch na for the next 5 days is biochemistry, dapat matapos mo lahat ng video lectures, handouts, and practice tests. Sinabi ni Top Notch yan, 5 days lang. So that gives you that sort of time constraint. And having that time constraint helps you finish the study material much quicker compared to having no constraints at all. Okay? This is what, one example nito is, remember during med school na when your teacher says na you have a research output that you have to give or you have to submit in 1 month, you will be able to finish that research output in 1 month. Okay. But if the teacher says that you have to submit that same research output in 1 week, you will be able to finish that same research output in 1 week. Okay? So, ito yung tinatawag na Parkinson's Law, that work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion. So, as I said, given the same task or given the same research output, pag sinabing 1 week, 1 month yung submission, tatapusin mo siya in 1 month. Kasi yung, like, for example, for the first 3 weeks, magpa-procrastinate ka and then pag 3 days na lang before submission, saka mo siya ika-cram. So, kumbaga, natapos mo rin siya in 1 month, pero ang totoo is tinapos mo lang siya in 3 days. So, samantalang, pag binigay yung same research output na yon na you have to submit in 1 week, kaya mo siyang tapusin in 1 week. Okay? So kumbaga, nagpa-procrastinate ka lang pag binigyan ka ng much longer na deadline. So, having that study schedule na 5 days na preset or pre-made by the review center helps a lot sa pag-set ng time constraints sa pag-study for the PLE. Okay? So let's go back dun sa pre-review season. So currently, you are in the pre-review season from today until July 31st. So what I would suggest na pwede niyong gawin is to plot kung ano yung kung ano yung duty schedule nyo from today until July 31st. So as you can see here, today is June 20, today is June 23 Sunday. So you can start doing your study schedule tomorrow, June 24. So yeah, June 24. And then let's just say that you will finish your pre-review season is July 31st. So let's just say na duty ka sa June 24 bukas. Okay? I believe na ang schedule ng interns ngayon is 6 p.m. Pag duty is, if you're on duty, is 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Okay? And the next day post-duty is, I believe, pwede kang mag-off ng 6 a.m. But kung may mga endorsements and whatever, is nakaka-uwi yung post-duty ng 10 a.m. And then the next day na, pre-duty yung pasok ulit sa hospital, which is kung OPD ka 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So, let's just say na ganun yung schedule nyo. So that means, on your on-duty days, which is yung green box, is let's just say na you wake up at 8 a.m. So if you wake up at 8 a.m. at ang pasok mo ay 6 p.m. pa, if you wake up at 8 a.m., you can study for like 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So that's a good solid 6 hours of studying. And then from 2 p.m. up until 5 p.m., you can take a nap before your night duty mo. So kumbaga, on your on-duty days, you have 6 hours of studying. So ilalagay mo siya dun sa schedule mo. Okay? And then on your post-duty days, as you can see, yung yellow box, it just says na rest, recover, post-duty. I would suggest na during your post-duty, hindi ka magsa-study. Like, dyan mo iipunin lahat ng rest. Pag matutulog ka, manonood ka na Netflix kung gusto mo, mag-gym ka kung gusto mo. Diyan mo siya gagawin lahat, or you'll go out with friends during post-duty. Diyan mo siya gagawin. So that during your on-duty days and pre-duty days is magsa-study ka lang. Okay? So gawin mo siya during post-duty days. And I would suggest na you would recover, like sleep for like, kasi puyat ka, I would suggest you should sleep for like maybe 8 to 10 hours para the next day, pre-duty, marami kang energy para mag-study for another 2 hours. So niligay ko na 2 hours kasi let's just say na ang pasok mo pag pre-duty is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then uwi ka, makarating ka sa bahay 6 p.m. And then kakain ka, magre-rest ka 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., dun ka magsa-study. Kaya 2 hours lang ang nilagay ko, no? Para hindi naman sobrang hectic ng schedule. So, so that means every 3-day duty cycle, you have a total of 8 hours of studying. So that's not much kung titingnan nyo. Okay, so again, every 3 days, kung naulit yung schedule nyo every 3 days, you only have 8 hours every 3 days. So if you don't do this with your study schedule, like you will be blindsided by the fact na you will be blindsided and you will think na ang dami mo pa namang time. May 38 days pa ako before August 1. So hindi muna ako mag-aaral, no? Samantalang pag ginawa mo tong schedule na to, it will sort of reveal to yourself na wala ka na pala talagang time mag-aral. And you have to study as early as now. Okay? So, I would suggest start studying now or tomorrow kasi you don't have enough time. Don't think na may 38 days ka pa before yung review season. Think na you only have 8 hours every 3-day duty cycle. Okay, so tandaan nyo yun. Start today kasi you don't have enough time. You don't have 38 days. You have 8 hours every 3-day duty cycle. Okay. So after plotting itong schedule na to, na every 3 days na ulit, you have to end it sa August 1st. As you can see yung red box, nakalagay review season. Kasi as I said, when review season starts, just follow the study schedule of your review center. So the next question dito, okay, I think the next question after going through this, after doing this sa study schedule nyo is, ano yung kailangan nyo i-study first? Like, anong subject? I would suggest, again, this is just a suggestion. You don't have to like force yourself to follow it. So, I would suggest starting with basic sciences instead of clinical sciences. So when I say basic sciences, that's anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, microbiology, pathology, and pharmacology, yung anim na yun. The reason is, the way the PLE is scored is by using MPL or percentile ranking. So that means hindi absolute score yung kino-compute. So for example, ang score mo sa biochemistry is 88. Ang percentile rank mo is 88. Hindi 88 over 100 yung score mo. Okay? It means you are at the top 88% nung lahat na nag-take na students sa October 2024. Okay. So, kunwari, ang absolute score mo is 65 over 100. And yung highest scorer, yung rank 1, for example, ang highest scorer is naka 75 lang na absolute score sa biochemistry. And ikaw ay 65. Kung 65 ka at siya ay 75, pasa ka pa rin. Kasi mataas yung percentile ranking mo. Kasi malapit yung score mo dun sa highest scorer, which is 75 lang. Okay? So, bakit ko sinabi yun? Kasi, if you're gonna decide whether to start with basic sciences or with clinical sciences, I would suggest going with basic sciences first kasi 2 reasons. The first one is, most of the students that I have mentored na on their second or third take or even fourth take is most of them is nahirapan sa basic sciences. And most of them, ang humila ng kanilang score, ng general average nila, ang humila nun pababa is basic sciences. Okay, so first is you have to make time for studying the basic sciences. The second reason is most of the students who will be taking the October 2024 PLE ay nalimutan na yung basic sciences. So if you study basic sciences as early as now, you can get a head start. And you would be able to get a higher score than the other students. And that means you will be able to have a higher percentile ranking than other students. And may hila nun yung rating mo overall. Okay? Kasi most of the students who will be taking the PLE have already forgotten the basic sciences kasi for the past 2 years, internship, clerkship, for the past 2 years is puro clinical sciences lang yung alam, yung parang niro-rotatean ninyo kasi you're rotating in surgery, OB, PDI, and IM, and the other like ortho or ENT, OFTA. So parang medyo nalimutan na yung basic sciences. So I would suggest going through the basic sciences as early as now as compared to clinical sciences, because when it comes to clinical sciences, most of the students will have like yung knowledge base ninyo is halos pare-parehas lang dun sa clinical sciences. Pero sa basic sciences, sobrang like wide yung knowledge gap ng mga students. So you have to put time dun sa mga basic sciences na yun. And so yeah, so yun yung reason, no? So I would suggest starting with basic sciences kung uunahin nyo man. So the next is, kung basic sciences yung unahin nyo, ano yung kailangan yung unahin na study method? Like, is it studying board review books? Is it reading the handouts as early as now ng mga top-notch, for example? Or is it doing practice tests? Or is it doing flashcards? I would suggest doing practice tests as early as now. Why? Kasi it would help you identify kung ano yung mga knowledge gaps mo as early as now. Okay? Some students would be hesitant na mag-practice tests as early as now kasi sabihin nila na bakit ako magpa-practice test? Wala pa naman ako nababasa. E di syempre mababa yung score ko doon. That is true. But let me just mute yung mute. Okay. So, ano nga sasabi ko? So, some students would be hesitant na magpractice tests as early as now kasi sabihin nila na wala pa silang alam. So hindi pa sila nagbabasa ng handout. That is true to some extent. But I believe na wala kang alam. I'm sorry. I believe na marami kang alam. It's just that hindi mo lang siya natatandaan. Like, marami kang alam kasi you've been through several years of med school and you've been through clerkship and internship. So, marami ka ng alam. Kailangan mo lang silang i-practice na i-retrieve from your memory, or kailangan mo lang silang ma-identify kung ano yung hindi mo pa pala talaga alam so you can fill on those gaps. Okay? So, you have to do practice tests to identify yung knowledge gaps mo, and so that you'd be able to know kung ano yung mga topics that frequently come out sa PLE. But we'll be going through that in the next few slides. Okay. So, as I said, during your pre-review season, make your own study schedule. I suggest starting with basic sciences. And in terms of study method, I would suggest doing practice tests as early as now. Instead of, kasi if you will be starting with handouts, if you will be reading board review books, with the 38 days that you have and just 8 hours in every 3 days ang meron ka, I would highly doubt na matatapos mo yung handouts or yung board review books. Okay? Kung may matatapos ka man na board review book, isang subject lang yun. For the whole of the 38 days, isang subject lang. So that's not an efficient use of your time, I believe. Okay. So during review season, so we've already discussed your pre-review season. Now let's go to review season when August 1st comes around. As I said, follow the study schedule of your review center, whatever it may be. But if your review center doesn't give you, will not be giving you any study schedule, I would suggest just creating your own. And during the review season, pag wala ka ng duty, I would suggest doing at least 8 to 10 hours per day of studying. The reason for that is, with 8 to 10 hours of studying per day, you would be able to cover much more topics than say isang subject, and it would still give you time to do practice tests. And another reason is kasi this is the way I studied for my PLE. I studied as much as I can. So this is the study schedule, itong screenshot na to. This is the study schedule I followed nung ako nagsa-study for my PLE nung September 2017. And that helped me log, I guess, maybe 10 to 11 hours of studying per day. I would say you can do 8 to 10 hours per day. Kasi if you do 6 hours, I doubt you would have enough time to finish yung mga study material. Mahirap yun gawin in 6 hours. Okay. And also, yung mga students that I have mentored in the past 2 years na unfortunately nag-fail on their first or second attempt, when I ask them, what do you think ang isa sa mga nag-contribute sa you not being able to finish yung mga study materials which led to you not passing the exam. So when I asked them that, maybe 2 or 3 mentees that I mentored said that they studied for like maybe 6 hours a day lang. And there's a lot of distractions in between pa. Okay. So you have to make sure that you're doing at least 8 to 10 hours per day because syempre, obviously, more hours of studying per day means more you being able to finish the study material and you being able to do practice tests. Kasi it doesn't hindi pwedeng puro handouts lang. You have to do practice tests and we'll be discussing that later. Okay. So you can follow the study schedule if you want. Okay. And when you're studying, I would suggest doing 90-minute focus sessions. So you can go with, so maraming techniques for doing focus sessions. We have Pomodoro sessions, 25 minutes, 25 minutes and 5-minute break, 25 minutes, 5-minute break. You can do that. But I used to do that nung nag-PLE ako. But nung nakita ko tong post na to ng isang person, he's a professor of neurobiology at Stanford, si Andrew Huberman. He said that 90 minutes is the longest period we can expect to maintain intense focus and effort toward learning. I changed my approach sa focus. Now I'm doing 90-minute focus sessions. Now, the reason, so pwede ka pa rin namang mag-Pomodoro, but based on my experience, pag nagpo-Pomodoro ako, na 25 minutes, 5-minute rest, 25 minutes, 5-minute rest, as I'm progressing doon sa 25 minutes, as I reach the 25th minute, yung motivation ko and yung focus ko is just starting to pick up. So parang pataas pa lang yung motivation ko habang nagsa-study and then nag-ring na yung alarm na 25 minutes na. So kumbaga, it's just starting to climb yung motivation mo and then on the 25th minute, kailangan mo mag-break kasi yun yung Pomodoro eh. So your motivation starts to like, it drops precipitously back to zero. So parang you're just starting to become motivated as biglang break na. So parang nasisira yung momentum. Whereas kung 90 minutes, you're able to reach the peak motivation and then maintain that level of motivation for like 90 minutes. Okay. So again, this is just a suggestion. If you really want yung Pomodoro, then that's good. But this is just one thing that you can consider. And so when you're doing the 90-minute focus, so may 90 minutes focus, 5-minute break, 90 minutes focus, 5-minute break. And then maybe on the third 90 minutes, you can go on a longer break. So instead of 5 minutes, you can do 10 or 15 minutes. Okay. So 90, 5, 90, and then 5 ulit, and then 90, and then a longer break, like maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And then what I would suggest is when you're doing breaks, don't use social media during breaks. So this from a book called Hyperfocus by Chris Bailey. Na most of us, when we are taking our study breaks, we tend to reflexively scroll on social media. But the thing is, ang attention mo kasi, you need attention when you're studying. And attention is a finite resource. So nauubos siya. So, and during breaks, you have to find ways kung paano mo siya ma-recharge, no? So that when you go back to studying, may energy ka na ulit. So, but pag nagfo-focus ka and then you're doing breaks, and you use social media, like nagsuscroll ka sa Facebook or nanonood ka ng Netflix, during breaks, pag yun ang ginawa mo, those activities, like yung Facebook and yung Netflix, they still consume your attention. Okay? So sabi dito sa book, when we check social media, okay, they still require our attention and we never truly have a chance to recharge. So that's the problem with using social media during breaks. Na hindi na-recharge talaga yung attention mo. Which is why after mo mag-social media, like after mo mag-Facebook, after mo mag-YouTube during your break, pagbalik mo sa study, parang hindi ka na-recharge, parang pagod ka pa rin. Na parang hindi ka naman nag-break, no? Kasi nga hindi na-recharge yung attention mo. Okay? So, what I would suggest is instead of doing these so instead of doing instead of doing itong mga doing social media breaks, is you can instead think of things that you can do that are low effort and does not require much of your attention. So one example that I'm doing when I'm doing 90-minute focus and 5-minute breaks, but what I tend to do during my 5-minute breaks is like I brush my teeth, or I make my coffee, or talk to my family during the 5 minutes, or maybe 10 or 15 minutes, or just do something na hindi magre-require ng much of your attention. Okay? So, but just not doing the social media breaks, and even watching YouTube, no? And also, what you can do during the breaks, like 5 to 10-minute breaks, is you can get a nap. If you're doing the long break on the third, like 90 minutes, 5, 90 minutes, 5, 90 minutes, and then the long break of 10 to 15 minutes, what you can do is to do 15 to 20-minute naps. I always take 15 to 20-minute naps in the afternoon pag nagsa-study ako ng matagal, and that never fails to recharge yung aking energy sa pagsa-study. Kasi like instead of doing yung social media breaks, doing a 15 to 20-minute nap will give you more, like it would be more beneficial to your studying as compared to like watching a 15-minute na video, for example, no? And yeah, so taking naps, this is proven. Well,
This meeting is being recorded.
So this has been proven by my personal experience, and also dito sa book na to from
Yung bus ko, pospos niyo nag...
Make Time. Sorry. I'll just mute yung nagsasalita. Anyway, yeah, so taking naps is really something that you have to can consider whenever na hindi like if you think na sobrang pagod na pagod ka na, you can take 15 to 20-minute naps, okay? So, and that would definitely help. And also prioritize your sleep when you're studying, kasi if you do like 6 hours per night, it would also be very difficult to be focused the next day. And there's also a thing called sleep debt. So if you're taking like 6 hours of sleep lang every night, mahirap siyang like, kasi normally we should be getting like 7 hours of sleep, but if you're only getting 6 hours of sleep and then you're doing it for a long time, like consecutive days, you would have something that's called sleep debt, which means nagkakaroon ka ng utang sa tulog and mahirap siya bayaran, okay? And that takes a toll on your focus and energy the next day. So parang hindi siya magandang trade-off when you're studying, no? Okay, and if these still don't work, you can also do itong other hacks for studying, like taking a cold shower, or again doing taking a 15 to 20-minute nap, or kung talagang tamad na tamad ka na sa pagsa-study, you can go outside in coffee shops or co-working spaces. Okay. So now let's go to the second topic, which is yung what effective study techniques work for the PLE. So I would suggest, so in general, there are a lot of effective study techniques in general. We have flashcards or doing practice tests, or even yung Feynman technique, or doing like explaining it to your friend. But so that's in general. But I believe in terms of the PLE, I would suggest doing practice tests. Why? Kasi practice tests sort of simulate kung ano yung sinisimulate niya yung exam content. Kasi yung exam is yung PLE is like question stem and then sort of 4 options, okay? So sinisimulate ng practice tests yung PLE. If you're doing flashcards, wala siyang options eh. So yun lang yung parang downside ng flashcards. Wala siyang options. So parang hindi ka natitrain na mag-eliminate ng options when you're doing flashcards. Kasi yun yung mahirap sa PLE. Sa PLE, dahil multiple choice question siya, is you have to learn how to reason to yourself kung bakit yung other 3 options ay hindi sila yung answer. And you have to train yourself na B is not the answer kasi ganito, C is not the answer kasi ganito, D is not the answer kasi ganito. So definitely A yung answer. And doing flashcards doesn't help you with that. Okay. So I'm not saying na wag kayong gumamit ever ng flashcards. I'm just saying na flashcards versus practice tests, I would go with practice tests. Actually, ako, nag-flashcards pa rin naman ako nung preparation ko for the PLE. But I only use flashcards whenever na wala ako sa study area ko. Like for example, when I'm waiting in line in the grocery or buying my own food. That's the only time na ginagamit ko yung flashcards. But whenever I'm in my study area, I always do practice tests. So we're going to be discussing quickly why you have to do practice tests, when and how. So why do we have to do practice tests? First is the reason number 1 is because it's evidence-based. So it's from the book Make It Stick. Na sinasabi na when doing practice tests, it helps us with the act of retrieving knowledge from memory. And pag pinapractice natin yung retrieval ng information from memory, that has the effect of making that knowledge easier to call up again in the future. So yun yung direct quote from the book. And kasi you have to realize that the way we understand something is by putting information into our brains. Okay, so yun yung mga lecture videos, mga handouts, reading books. So that's how we understand information, by putting it into our brains. But the way we learn and remember information, or the way we learn and remember something, is by actively retrieving information from our brains, taking it out from our brains, okay? And the only way that you can practice retrieving that information out of your brain is by doing practice tests, okay? Kasi yun yung gusto ng exam, yun yung gusto ng PLE. Ang gusto ng PLE is ma-retrieve mo yung information na inaral mo for the past 5 years. Yun yung gusto ng PLE. So you have to practice doing it as early as now. Okay? You have to actively practice retrieving that information from your brain and not like passively absorbing that information by only doing handouts and lecture videos. I'm not saying na wag ka mag-lecture videos and then mag-handouts. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying na it's not enough na mag-handouts and lecture videos ka lang. And the second reason is doing practice tests serves as a guide to help you know what topics to focus on for the PLE. Kasi the way the PLE works, as I will discuss later, is the way the PLE works is, as I have observed for the past 2 years, is there are certain topics na nauulit. Okay? And you have to identify kung ano yung mga topics na yun, so you would know where to focus on and where to spend most of your time on mastering those topics. No. So when do you have to do practice tests? You have to do them before and after studying the material. So for example, if you're gonna study, so during your review season, so dito may insert yung questions sa sa Google form may nag-ask, Doc, paano i-incorporate ang practice test sa study schedule ng Top Notch? So I would suggest, if 5 days yung binigay ng Top Notch sa biochemistry, just for example, you can do practice tests before. So that means on day 1 of biochemistry. And you can also do practice tests dun sa last day ng biochemistry, which is day 5. Okay? You can either do those, or you can also do it daily. So what I mean by that is, day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, magpa-practice test ka. Pwede mong hatiin. Instead of doing 100 practice tests, you can do like 40 sa morning ng day 1, and then another 40 sa afternoon ng day 1, and then do that sa day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. Okay, that's what I used to do. Hindi kasi wala akong time to sit down and finish a 100 practice test. I just do 40 sa umaga just to jumpstart my kumbaga yung brain ko kasi antok pa, so doing practice test sort of like parang warm up siya, and then 40 ulit sa hapon pag inaantok na ako dahil dire-diretso ako nagbabasa ng handout. So I just do practice test sa hapon just to break the monotony of reading handouts, no? And then when you're doing practice tests, you have to identify the number of items that you want to answer. So I said kanina na 40 yung practice test na sinasagutan ko sa umaga. So ideally, you have to be able to answer one question in 60 seconds or less. That's the speed of answering that you have to develop for the actual exam, no? Like you have to be able to answer one question in 60 seconds or less. And after mo sagutan yung 40, let's just say ng 10 items na yung gusto mo, which means you have to be able to finish it in 10 minutes or less. So after mo masagutan yung 10 items na yun, read the explanation and set a time limit sa pag-read ng explanation. Maybe 30 minutes para mabasa yung explanation ng 10 items na yun. Kasi this is the usual concern ng mga students na na-mentor ko. Doc, ang tagal magbasa ng explanation. Ang tagal gawin ng practice test. So the advice that I will always give them is to set a time limit. Like set yourself na 30 minutes or 1 hour ka lang magbabasa ng explanation. Kasi if you don't set a time limit for that, tatagal talaga. No. As I always tell my students, yung doing practice tests is matagal siya, but I assure you that it would pay dividends in the long run. Okay. As opposed or as compared to like just reading the handouts alone. Okay. I believe na doing practice tests will really help you remember yung information na yun, and would also help you in passing that exam, the PLE. Okay. And then after mo basahin yung explanation, you go back to the study material. Like for example, after mo basahin yung explanation, for example, yung question was about, let's just say ang question was anatomy, and the question was about ureters, and ano yung mga uretary constrictions. Let's just say yun yung question. And then yung nandun sa explanation sa practice test is yung uretary constrictions, yung uretero-pelvic junction, yung nasa pelvic brim, and yung uretero-vesical junction. Yun yung nasa explanation. So what I would suggest is, hindi ka masasatisfy dun sa explanation na yun, but instead, you will go back to the study material. So kunwari, nandun sa explanation is may reference. So kunwari, ang reference is BRS gross anatomy. So babalik ka dun sa BRS gross anatomy, and then babasahin mo lahat ng tungkol sa ureter. Not only the uretary constrictions, but also the ureteric arterial supply, the relationship of the ureter to other surrounding structures. Kasi, as we will discuss later on, it's not the questions in the PLE doesn't get repeated 100%. Ang naulit but what gets repeated is the question topic. So kung ang question topic is about the ureter, like uretary constrictions, pwedeng hindi na yun ang itanong. Ang itatanong na next na PLE is hindi na yung uretary constrictions. Ang itatanong na is ano yung arterial supply ng ureter. Kasi di ba iba-iba ang arterial supply ng ureter? We have the proximal, the middle, and the distal ureter. And I'm always using yung example ng ureter kasi never nawala yung ureter sa lahat ng PLE. like since noong 2017 na PLE ko and the next PLE and like yung most recent PLE yung April 2024, never nawala yung ureter. So you have to know everything about the ureter. Okay? So as I said, you have to go back to the study material, yung like for example, BRS gross anatomy, and then read everything about ureter. And then, so this is a screenshot na hindi masyadong maganda. So this is a screenshot from MedQBank. So MedQBank is like a question bank that we have made for those who will be taking the October 2024 PLE. So this is just a screenshot, and this is I'm showing this to you kasi this is how you should be studying for the PLE. Now, for example, ang question was about Sporothrix schenkii. And then the other options are paracoccidioides, coccidioides, and blastomyces. So hindi ka lang masasatisfy dun sa explanation na yung cigar-shaped yeast, which is yun nandun sa question stem, cigar-shaped yeast is Sporothrix. Hindi ka masasatisfy lang na alam mo yung Sporothrix ay cigar-shaped. Hindi, dapat alam mo rin kung ano yung other options. Why are the other options wrong? So why is paracoccidioides wrong? Kasi hindi siya cigar-shaped. Siya ay Captain Wheel appearance. Okay? Why not coccidioides ang sagot? Kasi hindi ang characteristic ng coccidioides is a spheral filled with endospores. Okay? So bakit hindi blastomyces ang sagot? Kasi broad-based budding ang characteristic ng blastomyces. Okay? So don't be satisfied with knowing the answer. You also have to know why the other options are wrong. Now, the question is, paano ko nalaman na ang practice tests actually work? Well, first of all, yun yung ginagamit kong practice test since nung nursing ako, nung ng med school ako, nung nag-PLE ako, and nung PSBIM ako, diplomate exam ng internal medicine. Yun, yung study technique na yun ang ginagawa ko to rank, para makarank ng mataas, magkaroon ng magandang score sa mga exams na yun. Okay? So I can personally attest to the effectiveness of doing practice tests. And also, yun yung ginamit ng yun yung ina-advise ko sa mga students that I have mentored. So let's just take, for example, si Gian. So si Gian is a student of mine that I have mentored last year na he came to me asking for advice kasi nahihirapan siya mag-exam. Like when studying, he always tends to forget kung ano yung inaaral niya. And so when doing practice tests daw ang baba lagi ng scores niya. So I advised him sa kung paano mag-practice test, like simulating the exam conditions, like doing it under time pressure, and then studying the correct answer and studying why the other options are wrong, and doing a lot of practice tests. And initially, hindi siya nagpa-practice test. Like, nagbabasa lang siya lagi ng handouts and lecture videos. And then when he started doing practice tests, his scores started to improve. And ito, nakapasa siya noong October 2023. Okay? So it's not only my experience, it's also the experience of other students that can attest sa effectiveness in doing practice tests for the PLE. It's all the same thing with Jenny. Si Jenny is also a student that I mentored noong October. Yeah, October then, I believe, or April. So yeah, so also si Jenny is nahirapan din siya with taking the exam, and initially hindi rin siya nagpa-practice test. And when we started talking and inalam ko kung paano yung study techniques niya, and then I advised her to do practice tests, to incorporate practice tests with the study handouts, or with the handouts of Top Notch kasi enrolls her sa Top Notch, and doing lecture videos, nakapasa rin siya sa kanyang PLE. Sorry sa malaki kong mukha, pero si Lysander ang bida dito, si Lysander, yung maliit na face sa may right upper. And si Lysander is also doubting kung magte-take siya ng PLE noong October 2023. Okay? Kasi like wala siyang confidence to take the exam. Mababa yung mga practice test scores niya. Yung diagnostics, midterms, and finals exams niya, mababa nung siya yung nagto-top notch. So, we did a Zoom mentorship and I talked to him about doing a lot of practice tests. And initially, gusto niya i-push back yung pag-take ng PLE from October. Gusto niya sanang gawing April. Pero since nag-practice tests siya, so na-boost yung confidence niya and nagkaroon siya ng courage to take the exam on October and yep, pumasa rin siya. And this is the same thing with CW, yung nasa left. Gusto niya lang maging anonymous. But tingnan niyo yung naka-underline and naka-bold. Practice tests saved me a lot of time in rereading the topics that I already know and instead focus on those that I forgot. So, ito yung advice that I would always tell my students na wag niyong i-read yung handout from cover to cover for the second time. Hindi niyo dapat gawin yan. What I would suggest that you could do for the second read is instead of reading it from cover to cover again for the second time is do practice tests and then based on the practice tests, kung ano yung topic na sinabi sa practice test, yun lang yung topic na babalikan ninyo dun sa handout. So selectively ninyong babalikan yung handout. Selective ka lang doon sa topics na babalikan mo sa handout based sa kung anong lumabas sa practice test. Okay? And as she said, instead of rereading the topics, nag-focus lang siya doon sa mga nalimutan na niya. Okay? Kasi nga, it doesn't mean na natapos mo yung handouts is alam mo talaga lahat ng nabasa mo. You have to identify kung ano yung mga knowledge gaps mo after reading the handout, which is by doing practice tests. So you would be able to know kung ano yung mga weak areas mo and ma-fill mo yung knowledge gaps na yun while you still have time. So yeah, so that was her third take. Okay, so pumasa siya. Also the same thing with Ian, si Harvey, si Gian, Paolo, si Alisa. Also the same thing with Eugene. So si Eugene, also a retaker, nahirapan din siya on his first take. Nag-practice tests din siya kasi he didn't used to do practice tests nung previous takes niya. Nung nag-practice tests na siya, nakapasa na siya. Also the same with si Michelle, si Robert, si June, si Carl, si Russell, si Ian. Okay, so maraming students ang nahirapan initially with how to study for the PLE. And when they started to do practice tests, they started to identify kung ano yung mga knowledge gaps nila after reading the handout. And they were able to remember more information in less time as compared to like reading the handout for the second time cover to cover. So it's a more efficient use of your it's a more efficient use of your time and energy na mag-practice test instead of like rereading it several times, yung study material. Also the same thing with si Maya, si Keanu, okay? So, having said that, na practice tests is really the method that I would suggest that you can do for the PLE. Having said that, and that flashcards and other study methods are not that bad, but should not be considered as the first choice. Kasi ang first choice dapat is doing practice tests and of course studying the handouts and lecture videos. The next question is, paano ko nasabi yun? Paano ko nasabi na doing practice tests is the way to go? Aside from the testimonials of the other students. Paano ko nasabi yun? This leads us to part 3 of the session, which is how are questions asked in the PLE? Kasi, as I said, yung flashcards, it's not totally bad. It's just that yung flashcards, hindi niya sinisimulate yung PLE. Kasi nga, wala siyang options. So it doesn't develop your skill of being able to eliminate the other options. Okay, because you only have to in the actual exam, you only have to choose one option among the four options. So you have to be able to develop that skill of being able to eliminate yung other options, so that you can be able to identify kung ano yung correct answer. So this is the this is from students who took the PLE last April, and sinabi nila, ang questions daw sa PLE, most of the time they are question stems consisting of only 1 to 2 lines. Okay? Again, sinabi ng isa pang student, it's hard to eliminate since all were one-liner questions lang po. Direct questions were asked, either you know or you don't. So, bakit ko nilagay ito dito? So, nilagay ko ito dito kasi I wanted to emphasize na iba yung structure ng question stems sa PLE compared to other exams. Like for example, if you're using UWorld is like a question bank for the USMLE. We also have Past Medicine, which is a question bank for the PLab. Okay. So if you're also AMBOSS, that's also a question bank for USMLE. If you're using those, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I'm just saying that iba yung structure ng question stem nila, very clinical two-step questions. Like my case na mahaba and then question stem mahaba rin. So that's the way the questions are structured sa USMLE, but it's different for the PLE kasi sa PLE is one-liner lang sila. Okay? And I'm very direct. Like this question stem, screenshot na to, na nakalagay, all of the following are true about Lambert-Eaton syndrome except. So ganito ang question sa PLE. One-liner, either you don't know it or you don't. Either you know it or you don't. Okay? So, by doing practice tests that are designed for the PLE, you would be able to be familiar with how questions are asked, with how question stems are asked in the PLE, and that sort of reduces your anxiety sa PLE kasi medyo familiar ka na, okay, one-liner lang pala most of them. And also, it helps you, again, identify kung ano yung mga knowledge gaps mo. Okay. So as I said kanina, questions do not get, in the PLE, questions do not get repeated 100%. Okay? Hindi na ulit 100% ang questions sa PLE. Ang nauulit is yung question topic. So guys, ito yung example. Noong March 2023, ito yung sinabi ng student. Marami pong questions about cubital fossa, ureters, innervation of the extremities. Next PLE, October 2023, may question na naman about ureter. Well, sort of not urethra, but about urology pa rin. Okay. Next PLE, April 2024, ureter na naman. Pero ang tanong na was about part of the ureter that's prone to damage during hysterectomy, and then ureteric constrictions, and then bladder. Okay, and then blood vessel in the extremities. So, puro ureter. Noong April 2024, may blood vessel anastomosis in the extremities, pero noong March is my innervation of the extremities. So what does that tell us? That tells us that hindi na ulit yung question 100%. Hindi na ulit na kung ang lumabas ng previous PLE is innervation of the extremities, hindi maulit yon. Possibly. But maulit yung topic na extremities. So you have to master yung innervation ng extremities, yung blood, yung arterial supply ng extremities, upper and lower extremities. And when it comes to ureter, hindi lang ureter yung dapat mong tandaan. Tandaan mo rin yung bladder and yung urethra. Kasi lahat yun is part of the male urinary system. So having that knowledge in the back of your head na may questions sa ureter, sa bladder, sa urethra, the next time na ma-encounter mo yung topic na yun sa anatomy, sa surgery, like hindi mo i-gloss over yung topic na yun. Tatandaan mo talaga yun kasi lalabas siya. Okay? So having that knowledge gives you like an edge or like a head start compared to other students. And that will sort of help you increase your percentile ranking para tumaas din yung average rating mo for the PLE. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this is another example. So this is another example. Medyo time na pala tayo. So this is another example. This is from, I think this is PDEA naman. Okay, so ang sinabi naman sa PDEA, nung March 2023, Wilms tumor staging. Nung next na PLE, Wilms tumor ulit. Okay, nung March 2023, guys, tingnan nyo. Staging ng Wilms. Noong October 2023, treatment ng Wilms. Noong ano naman, noong April 2024, association ng Wilms. So it's all about Wilms. So the lesson there is, pag may tanong sa question stem or sa practice test na about sa Wilms, aralin mo lahat ng tungkol sa Wilms. Clinical manifestations, diagnosis or diagnostic exams, treatment, associations, lahat ng tungkol sa Wilms. Huwag mo siya i-gloss over. Okay? So that's the benefit of doing practice tests. Okay, so we're near the end of this session. So we're just gonna be answering a few popular questions na nandun sa Google form that I sent out a few days ago. So I think nasagot natin tong isang unang question, which is which subjects to start on, and that is, as I said, basic sciences. How about itong question na to? Is 2 months enough to study for the PLE? And also, how to study PLE in 2 months? Okay. Mahirap itong question na to. Kasi ang answer ko dito is yes and no. Yes, it's doable. You can study for the PLE for 2 months. I've heard of stories na nag-study lang for 2 months and nakapasa. And the second answer is no at the same time, kasi there's a lot of factors that you should consider. The first is yung knowledge base mo during med school. So that's very individual na level kind of yeah. So wait lang. I'll just mute yung anyway. All right. So again, it depends on yung knowledge base mo during med school. The second factor is yung study habits mo, yung study techniques mo, and yung study environment mo. And the third factor that you should consider if you can study for the PLE in 2 months and pass the PLE in 2 months of studying is yung current situation mo. Like, there's a lot of factors talaga eh. Current situation mo, where you're enrolled, and may support system ka ba, and yun, maraming factors na nag-interplay. So this is a very difficult question na hindi kayang sagutin in like simple terms, like in simple words. Yeah, so it's a yes or no question, na answer. Next question is, how many MCQs does the MedQbank comprise of in preparation for October PLE? So currently we have 100. So for October 2024 PLE, we have 100 questions for each of the 12 subjects. So for October 2024, we have 1,200 questions, kasi 100 questions for each of the 12 subjects. And so that's 1,200 for October 2024, another 1,200 for nung April, and another 1,200 nung 1,200, another 1,200 for nung October 2023, and another 1,200 for March 2023. So that's a total of 4,800 na questions. Now, Doc, the next question is, Doc, hindi ba dapat mas marami akong ginagawang practice tests? My answer is no. Kasi I don't believe kaya mong gawin yung 4,000. I don't believe kaya mong I don't believe kaya mong tapusin ang like 18,000 na practice tests in the next from today until October. I don't think kaya mong tapusin yung 18,000. And even if you could, I doubt na kaya mong like tandaan lahat ng nandun sa explanation. So I would suggest just doing at least 200 to 300 practice tests for each of the 12 subjects. I think doing 200 to 300 practice tests for each of the 12 subjects is enough Just as long as you make sure na you're doing it right, like you're simulating the exam conditions, like under time pressure, you're studying the explanations, and after studying the explanations, you will go back to the handout or the board review book, and you're gonna study everything about that question topic. As I said, kung uriter ang topic ng question sa practice test, hindi ka masasatisfy sa explanation, but instead you will go back to the handout or the board review book, and you will be studying everything about the uriter. So that will take time, a lot of time. And if you do 18,000 practice tests, I don't think you can do yung pagbalik sa board review book or dun sa study material, no? So I think doing 200 to 300 practice tests for each of the 12 subjects is enough for the PLE. No? So that ends this session. I hope na marami kayong natutunan, and I think may question din, no? Sa chat box. Sige, sagutin lang natin to. We're just over 5 minutes pa lang naman. How are we supposed to approach? Okay. Basic sciences is anatomy, physiology, and ano pa po yun, Doc? Sorry for asking. So that's anatomy, physiology, anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, pharmacology, pathology, and microbiology. Okay. Hi, Doc. How are we supposed to approach the practice test? Is it more effective to answer 100 items than read the ratio, or read more extensively on the topic per question to maximize learning? I think it really depends on your time availability. Like if you think you can sit for like 2 hours to finish 100 na item practice tests, then do that. But if you think you don't have that 2 hours, as I said, pwede mo siyang hatiin, like maybe 40 or even 20 or maybe 30 sa umaga and then another 30 sa hapon. Okay? Just so that after mong sagutan yung 20 to 30 items is you would still have time na aralin yung explanations for the 20 to 30 items so that hindi sila maging backlog. Okay? But if you think na you can answer like 100 item practice test in 2 hours, and then you also have 2 or 3 or 4 days na bakante para basahin lahat ng explanations ng 100 item practice tests na yun over the next 3 or 4 days, then you can do yung 100 na yun in one sitting. No? Again, it really depends on how much time you have. What kind of breaks do you recommend, Doc? I think na-answer ko to kanina. As I said, it should be low effort na activities like brushing your teeth, making your coffee, playing with your dog, talking to your mom, your dad, your siblings, mga ganun, no? Mga low effort activities, no? Hello, Doc. Does it matter which practice test we start with, or would you recommend starting with the most recent questions of April 2024? I would recommend starting with the most recent questions ng April 2024. But if you go to if you are subscribed to MedQBank, I would suggest starting with October 2024, yung most recent one, kasi yung October 2024 namin is based on questions based on the topics that came out no April 2024, and yung April 2024 is based on what came out no October 2023. So parang ganun siya, no? So as to answer your question, start with the most recent set of questions. Are you aware of Anki flashcards, Pudok, or flashcards in general? Is flashcards plus practice tests enough versus passive reading? I think I've heard of Anki flashcards. I think maraming ganyan sa Reddit. Like for example, yung Anking na deck. But I'm afraid yung Anking na flashcards na makikita nyo sa Reddit na pre-made is specifically designed for USMLE, and maraming questions doon na hindi masyadong lumalabas for the PLE. So I'm not saying na wag nyong gamitin ever yung Anking na flashcards. Again, if I were in your position, I would still use it, but I would just use it pag during downtime, like riding a bus, waiting in line sa MRT, or waiting in line sa grocery na napakahaba ng linya. So mga ganon, no? Or naghihintay ng blood results sa blood bank, mga ganon. So those are the only times na pwede akong mag-angking flashcards sa bot.
Tawag mo muna kamustahin, wala pang result.
But yes. But I would but whenever nandun ako sa aking study area, I would just do practice tests. Okay. So again, practice tests versus flashcards. Practice tests ang una kong gagawin. Flashcards, just a second option lang siya for me. How can we avail Doc the MedQ Bank? You can go to itong I think it's on the screen. Nasa share screen siya. Itong medqbank.com. Oh, no, not that. Yeah, you can go dun sa Facebook or sa medqbank.com.ph. Yep. May instructions naman dun. Thank you po, Doc. Okay, so naubos na natin yung questions sa chat box. So I do hope na every one of you is may natutunan sa ating session. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm sorry na sumobra tayo ng 11 minutes. And if you have friends na hindi naka-attend tonight, I believe na naka-record ito, so I will be sending the recorded session to mga emails na naka-registered sa Google form. And for the recorded session, if you want to watch it again or to want to share it with your friends na magbe-benefit din, hopefully. So yeah, so if you don't have any other questions, i-end ko na to session. And good luck sa inyong lahat sa inyong PLE sa October 2024 and for those na magti-take sa next na mga PLEs. Okay? So, okay. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'll just stop the share. Okay, I'll end this call, this sessions now. Okay. Thank you, everyone. And good night.